I'd like to introduce you to the collection tracking tool. This is a tool that has been developed with inside of the Hub team. But it's because of all of your efforts that we've had the information and the data available to do this. So this is a community effort that we've put together here. And I hope you find value in the collection status tracking tool. What I want to do today is just take you through the basics of the tool, a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll do a live demonstration of the tool and its functionality so that you can see how it works. And then within the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out the tool at the different collections and institutions. So the tool is an online tool basically to monitor and track the status of the collection management and curation practices and standards. The tool is based on the NSCF Collection Management and Conservation Manual released in 2021, which outlines the community agreed standards for natural science collection management in South Africa. It's a streamlined version of the original Iqoqwana Collections Assessment questionnaire designed to be both practical and user-friendly. It can be applied to a single collection or group of collections managed as a single unit. Provides institutions with valuable real-time insights about the collections to support strategic planning, resource allocation, reporting, and the continuous improvement of collection management and curation practices. It's intended to identify areas in most need of attention within your institution, so basically guiding the collection-specific curation and management plans. The tool aims to reduce the burden on already constrained collection staff while safeguarding the collections themselves. It facilitates community collaboration to address issues and bring the collections up to the appropriate standards. Collection management tips provided in the tool are expected to enhance learning outcomes and contribute to long-term preservation of our collections, as well as support the staff responsible for the care, while fostering a common understanding of collection management. So if we speak the same language, we can identify the same issues and find solutions for the same problems. Ongoing updates by collection institutions according to progress on meeting standards set in the NSCF manual, for example. Now, how the tool works basically is there will be a specific collection link that will be provided to you by the curation's collection management specialist on a quarterly basis or more frequently as required. This information will then be accessed by the NSCF to reflect the status of the collections within the reporting period. Now the tool works very basically at sort of the mechanics of the tool I'll discuss now, as well as how the form looks and the dashboard features and interface. So the sort of underlying mechanisms or what's happening in the background is three elements, sort of the Google Forms, Google Sheets, and the Google Apps scripts. And information bounces from the Google Forms through app scripts back to the Google Sheet, and sometimes information is coming from the sheet going to the form. So this is all happening in the background where we're using JavaScript to manipulate the information. And this is in real time. So when you submit your information to us through the Google form, all of the calculations happen. And it takes about 5 or so minutes for these calculations to complete, and then you will have your updated statuses for your collections. This information is then transferred over to the Google Data Studio and then eventually, which was the old sort of name for what is now called Looker Studio, where the visualizations are presented to the user. Now the tracking tool form, basically, if you look at it, is standard Google form, and you'll see there's information here that you'll include. Now, it is to the benefit of the institution and its collections that the tool is regularly updated with accurate information. The information therefore feeds from the form into the different sections of the tool, as you can see here, and this would be the overview page that's displayed on the screen at the moment. Now, the questionnaire is divided into 10 sections, each corresponding to one of 3 key collection assessment categories: implementation, risk, and documentation. In order to submit the form, all sections must be completed. If there were no updates in a specific section, you can leave the answers as they are. If updates are needed, and change to the appropriate responses. So how this works is when you access the questionnaire link, you will see that your most recent submission will already be pre-populated in the form. And therefore, it takes all of the effort out of filling out these forms over and over and over again. You basically just make your one or two changes and then submit the form. All responses then are analyzed in real time, as I've said earlier, and the actual dashboard is updated automatically after about 15 minutes. The dashboard provides immediate insights into the current status of collections, including detailed metrics for each key component and links to resources related to relevant categories and their recommended standards. The tool serves as a framework for assessing collections and a practical resource for reporting PDF reports. For reporting. So PDF reports can be generated, which basically provides a comprehensive visual overview of the collection status at that point in time. And then, as stated earlier, this information will then be reported on quarterly by the NSCF as well. So if you want an updated or most recent reflection of your collection status, it is of interest of you to update this at least quarterly. Now, basically how the sort of conceptual process workflow works of how you would use this tool, if we had to use it in a collection, is once you receive your link from the Curation Collection Management Specialist, you'll then access the Google form, review the form sections, assess the amount of resources you would need, whether you not need to be looking at scheduling or if the staff involved are going to require training for the job. Then planning and establishing timelines would be important, after which tasks can be prioritized, implemented, and then after implementation of these changes or updates to your collection, you can then proceed again to the Google form link, which will be available within the dashboard tool. After you've completed what's changed, you can submit that form and then navigate back to the dashboard after about 15 or so minutes. There you can review the collection metrics. Now, if you're unclear about what this means, you can contact the NSCF or consult the collection management manual. If you understand what's going on, you could either download the PDF report, then sit down, review and interpret the tracking tool results. Then you can again identify potential actions and next steps, after which you would then update your curation and management plans in the long term for how you would be tackling these issues. Report on it if you like, and then the NSCF will be extracting that collection status information quarterly or so. A very basic sort of process here, but this is how the tool can be used or incorporated into this type of workflow for identifying issues within the collection and finding either mitigation measures or solutions to these problems. So now I'm going to show you the practical demonstration of the tool. Basically what we're going to be looking at is a live view of this tool. So we'll go into the demonstration here, and then now you can see the sort of front page of the tracking tool as you load in. The front page contains a link to the Collection Management and Conservation Manual, but also to the Collection Status Tracking Tool Manual, which you might find useful when working with the tool. And this will be available to you as soon as you receive your dashboard. So there's a few pages that we're going to go through here in order to show you what's happening. Basically, there's an overview page. And the first overview page contains information for your institution, and the averages that you see here is the averages across all of the collections housed within the institution. This first piece that you see here on the screen indicates the percentages across the board. So this is 86% for all implementation, for all collections. So that's quite high. All collections scored 77% for documentation, institutional documents, etc. Okay, so this just gives you this. The next is a tree map, and this section here just gives you a slight breakdown of what's inside of the implementation or documentation, for example. And this works on the basis of your highest values being green, in this case 95.45% for the collection space and organization, and your lowest values being red, in this case 75% for risk monitoring. So this doesn't follow the color coding in the reports. What it does is it allows you to quickly have a look at what is the lowest scoring sections within each of the categories across your collections, and therefore that can be tackled together as an institution. Then the last part here is just a sort of like sort of a display of the different sort of submissions or updates that has been submitted to the tool. And you can see here that over time, it does indicate to you the components and how they contribute to this. So in this case, the institutional documents score 100, and that's quite good. And documentation collections. If we move on to the next one, you'll see that the values do change, and that affects this yellow value, which is the overall percentage of all of the categories. Okay, so this does look quite good. Then when you go to the implementation section, this is where we're going to go more specific. If there's multiple collections in your institution here, you will find a breakdown of these. And on the implementation page, there's a few things. We indicate the number of staff involved in the collections, the number of questions relevant to this section, as well as the overall percentage. Below this, we've got the at-risk indicator, and this sort of just indicates the number of not implemented questions, meaning that these have received zero attention. And for this sort of institution, that's at 6.6%, so it's quite low, and there's only a few things that are still outstanding that requires attention and could, while working on, be moved to partly implemented, for example. What's interesting about the dashboard here is that everything is interactive. The section here, you will select your collections. Here you'll see an average trend line, at least of the general implementation percentage across all of the collections that can be compared to the individual collections. Now, when you select a collection here, collection G, what will happen is the rest of the values on the page will filter, and you will only see the values associated with collection G. If you want to go deeper into this red collection space and organization section, you'll select that. And this is also going to filter even deeper and showing that one question is related to that in collection space and organization. And this says what proportion of your containers are overfull in terms of specimens, more than 30% of the volume. So it was more than 50%, which is a risky situation. Here you can sort of identify or see which question. If you go to collection H, this selection might change depending on the sort of like the subset that you're working with. So if you are looking at the risk monitoring response, you want to know what's going on here. There should be 2 questions, overall 75% for this collection. Now this works both ways, and you can just sort of reset the former if you want to do new filters. But if you are interested in which collections are dealing with the risk of specimen data and image management, for example, you select that, and this will now also filter the rest. And you can see in this case, it's all of the collections, and it's only one question that deals with that. So you can see there's only a few questions in this sort of demo collection that actually can be isolated and receive some attention. This also works for the questions in the bottom here, so you could scroll through and select a question if office space is adequate. Once you select this question, again, we'll see a subset, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all of the collections are here again, and for this question, everything seems to be fine. Now, each of the questions contain the original response last submitted, also a tip, and this just gives you an idea of what could be expected of this, or potentially how would you address this issue. And then next to that, there's a resource link. Once you click on the resource link here, it will open up a new page within a Google Drive. And here, resources can be added by all collections that would be available to all of the collections that might pertain or relate to that. This could be literature sourced or interesting links. Going to the documentation section, what you will see here is apologies, a slightly different layout. We have the number of required documents for the section, then a percentage score, not an at-risk score. So this is just the percentage documents that have been completed, and for this it's 76.7. You can see that over time the documents have sort of gone down, and this could be that some are in review or requiring further development, or some have been retracted due to changes. Okay, so you can do that. Again, here there's the option to subset, select a value, and then to see what's happening. And you'll see the required documents section here in the documentation section slightly different. We do link to templates, and these templates will be added as time goes by. But this does allow you to select things like the DFFE registration homepage is just a click away. And these resources and links can be improved over time to make them better. Same with things like PDFs. In this case, we'll open up the OSH Act, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that people can use when dealing with any health and safety stuff inside of their collections to get some guidance. Then the collections section of the documentation again allows us to select between collections, and here for overall collections the percentage score is 90. If we go through here, we'll see that we've got collection E, and you'll see the value change here to 86.9. So that's one of the lowest ones. Same as the previous section, there's the documents, but also a link to potential templates or resources that we'll add as time goes by. Then the risk section of the tracking tool, again, works slightly differently. Here we have got a controlled sort of like dial here that indicates how much of the risks have been controlled at least. As you can see here, it's 88.1 for this institution. If we go to collection G here, it goes to 88.6. Okay. Again, you can filter and then get a subset of these questions. So for water damage, let's select that. There's only one question related to this, and this is about specimens standing on the floor. And this also then links to a folder that contains information about collection risks and things like that. Here you can see it's only a subset of the collections that have water damage. If we were to select the other one, we might see addition of more, but no, not in this case. This is for wet collections, and there's also one for dry collections. Information on these pages mean the same. Again, you can select and a question, for example, to see what's happening around that question. In this case, there's a high priority that loans have not been returned for more than 5 or 10 years. And that is a high risk in all of these collections, for example. Now, since this is a demo collection, it sort of looks very similar, but I'll show you when we submit an update just what the difference would be and how it would change the actual values. Then finally, you have the collection status update page, and this page here gives you an indication of the number of collections you have that have submitted updates. You can select the data range if you only want to look at specific time intervals. There's been 12 submissions by one individual, and here you'll just see the sizes of the collection based on the number of submissions being indicated in the stream map here. On the side here, you'll find the last submission that you've submitted for each of the collections. This could be multiple collection E's and then a collection B, for example. So it just depends on when you submit and if you submit often. And then you also have the current users that are available that work on the tool and that contribute to the different sort of updates to the status of the collection. If you want to make an update here, basically you select one of these pre-filled links, and that's going to open a page. The Google form, and what you'll see here is you'll select your email address just to confirm the user. The institution and the collection will already be pre-populated because you've selected collection E. But if you were to say you want to make an update to collection A, you just change that. And what's interesting now, because it's a pre-filled link, all of the information will already be populated here. So we can just go through this very briefly and see if there's anything that we need to change in collection A. And as you can see, I'm scrolling through. This doesn't take more than a minute to go through if you know what you want to update. If you are going through this gradually because you've made a lot of different updates, then you can take your time. And What's interesting also is you've got the ability to submit your documents through the Google form as well. So if you are working on new documents, or if you've got documents that you would like to submit for review, you can then submit it inside of the tool. And this sort of starts on page 10, where we do have the option to select documents. So here you can see that if you said not started, we change that, and we'll also change that to not started. We want to affect the values of the document so that you can see how the update works. But if you were to change something to developed, you can then add a file here, and that would be uploaded, dragged or dropped into the space, and will be sent to a folder where the NSCF team has access to it to look at these documents and confirm. Then the final page sort of here, before we do the last submission, we'll also change a few things here. This is for collection A. And this should push down the overall percentage a little bit because of all of the no's. And then we can submit. So once we submit the form, what you'll see is there's the option to see previous responses, edit your responses, or submit another response. So if you are going to submit another response, you have to remember that the pre-filled link will not work. So I would rather access another link from the tracking tool dashboard. And this is how Google Forms work. You can edit your response if you realized you've made a mistake. And you can also see previous responses. So selecting previous responses will open up the sort of Google Forms display for graphs. And this information could be useful to you outside of the tracking tool. This is a built-in function of Google Forms where you can get different sort of pie charts and bar graphs based on the responses for your collection. So everyone will be able to see this, and this will be available for each of the collections. And just a sort of a very quick sort of overview of each of the questions and how that's distributed if you want to know that. And these visualizations are not really available within the dashboard in this way, but you can access them here if you are keen for pulling this into reports and things like that. Once the information is submitted, it takes about 5 minutes or so for the calculations to complete. So while that's running, there's also a tab here on the collection update or status update section for managing the users. So how the dashboard works is that your email address will allow you access to view the dashboard. And therefore, all users that are going to view or interact with the dashboard need to add their email addresses here. So initially, we will pre-populate this with some individuals if possible. But if you want to add new individuals or remove access for individuals, let's say somebody's retiring or moving on to a new job, you don't want them to have access to the dashboard anymore, you can just select the button here and request that access is updated. Okay, this will send a link to the relevant person that needs to go to that dashboard and either remove access from an individual or add an individual to give them access to that. So if we go back to the overview page now, what we will see, and remember we made some changes here and there, we are just going to wait around a second or two for the calculations to finish. Now the dashboard is something that you can access on a daily basis if you are going to be making daily updates. Although I would suggest that you rather sort of use the dashboard, identify something, tackle it, sort it out, and then update the dashboard as you go along. So generally speaking, when you want to refresh the dashboard, there's a button here and you can just sort of refresh the data and we'll have a look. If we see anything new here, we do see that you see 77 for the documentation here. It's that the institutional documents have dropped to 60%. And that's due to the updates that we've made to that one collection. Now, this means that if you go to the documentation section here of collections, where we will actually see the difference in the status here, and we can also press the refresh button, it should work. I think we made changes to collection A, and you see that it's gone down to 77. Here you will also see that on the sort of basics that when you do make updates to a single collection, that affects the overall collection. We've lost a percentage here, for example. So yeah, so the updates are quite fast. Once you click on collection update, you'll see a bit more reds and stuff here because of the stuff that we've removed from each of the sections. So it's quite nice. It's a nice tool to have, but it's something that you either will use or not use. To me, I think it's quite valuable. So thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoy. If you've got any other questions, you're welcome to contact us, and we will show you how to work with the tool when we do roll it out at the different institutions. Thanks a lot.